Hello and welcome to Teachable Tuesdays. I want to go ahead and get started. I know today's a crazy day because it's election day and some of you may be running out to lunch if you're in the central time zone to go and vote, and it's a very important day, so let's make our vote count. And I don't want to keep you if that's what you're trying to do, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Teachable Tuesdays. Today, we're going to talk about the evolution of executive women and whether or not it's enough. Pretty timely, I think, too, considering that we have up for election our very first female president. And we'll see what the numbers look like by the end of the day. So I want to talk today about the evolution of executive women and whether or not it's enough. So first and foremost, we're going to share with you some facts, right? Because it's always important to take a look at the facts. Next, I want to talk about where we came from. From there, we're going to talk about why we're stuck, because I do feel like we are stuck in a sense. And then we're going to move forward and see what we need to be doing as executive women to move forward. And then I'll share with you some takeaways at the end of the video presentation so that we can talk about how we make a difference. So let's start, of course, with the facts, right? Women make up only 18% of top leadership positions, and that's a census from Catalyst from 2013, and I left 2013 up there because it hasn't changed. We still make up only 18% of the top leadership positions in the country. Next, let's talk about how women earn less than men, which, as we know, is 78.7 cents to every dollar paid to our male counterparts. Again, it is 2013. We have not risen above that amount since 2013. Next, 44% of working women are primary breadwinners. I did not know if you realized that or not. And that has risen a little bit from the 2013 census, but it's only 44.8%. I think we're going to see that continue to rise, and I know that you'll agree with me, as women are being the primary breadwinners, and a lot of men are staying home and taking care of the kids. Now, in September of 2013, the Catalyst Knowledge Center told us that 21 of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women, and that's only 4% of the 500 CEOs in today's standards. So we have some work to do, right? Let's now go and talk about some more facts. Women hold only 14.3% of executive officer positions. Again, my latest information is from Catalyst in 2013, and 2015 numbers are about to be out, so we will be taking a look and updating that shortly. Next, we hold 16.6% of board seats. And it's interesting because obviously if Hillary Clinton wins the presidency today, we hope we'll see that change, but it's anybody's game right now, isn't it? Next, we hold 24% of elected congressional seats. Now, ladies, think about this. This is the people that we elect into Congress. So that's on us. If we want more women into Congress, then we have to start electing them. So that's the facts. One interesting bit of information, and I don't know if you can see this or not because it's not clear on my screen, but if we took all of the women right now that is the population in the percent of the United States, which is 50.8%. 50.8% is what we have in the United States today. If our population reflected how many leaders we had, if it only reflected our leadership, 1 in 10 people in the United States would be a woman. So we've got some work to do. Let's move on. Let's talk about what men and women really think about gender equality in the workplace. Now, we know what we think, but let's talk about what the facts are. Women respond more to social pressures, and men respond to money and rewards. So think about that. Men and women agree that women do not know how to negotiate their own salaries. do not have the tools to do so, and men were better negotiators than women. Now, I teach and coach a lot of women on how to negotiate for themselves. We are so good at negotiating for our clients, negotiating for our kids, negotiating when it comes to arguing with our spouses, but we are bad about negotiating for ourselves. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in another Women's Power Hour, where I'm going to be interviewing somebody on how to negotiate for yourself. So you don't want to miss that one. Next, 58% of men and 51% of women admitted to speaking up all the time or frequently at meetings. The more work experience they have, the more comfortable they are going to be at speaking up. So we're not doing bad. Only 51% of women are speaking up. That's only half the women out there. So we really need to encourage more women to speak up. Interestingly, look at this. 53% of women have never asked for a raise compared to 40% of men. So more than half of us have never gone in and asked for a raise. Among those asking for money when starting a new job, only 89% were successful. So we need to move that monitor, and we need to all come together and talk about how we make sure that we are getting enough value for what we're giving. Both sexes believe that men have an advantage when it comes to pay. 31% of women think they would be paid more if they were men, and 20% of men think they would be paid less if they were women. So we have a disadvantage here. Now let's talk about half of men and 2/3 of women think that women are more securitized than men in the workplace. Would you agree with that? 81% of men think that public policy should address challenges such as equal pay, paid sick leave, and paid maternity leave. The majority of them think that the country has done what it should regarding equal rights. 29% of women agree that government has done all it can. I'd have to argue with that. Now, I know it starts with us, but we want to talk about how we get those people elected into Congress that can help us move up the ladder. Now, 46% men and 51% women think that family is the main reason why there aren't more business women leaders. 55% of women said they think they are discriminated against. 33% of men think this is the case, and the survey found that 28% of women admitted to experiencing discrimination in the workplace. The problem there is we aren't always doing something about it. 35% of men and 34% of women said women aren't tough enough to be in top positions. Tell that to Hillary Clinton, right? Now, I'm not saying I'm a Hillary Clinton fan, but I just used her as an example. So that was then. What's happened back in the 1980s has drastically changed, but not enough to where we should be today. So the role of women in the workplace, of course, has increased greatly. Women-owned businesses share of federal contracts more than doubled during the 80s, because here's what's happening. Women are not getting treated the way they think they should be treated in corporate America, so they're going out and opening their own companies. So just look at the list. Mary Kay started her business in the 60s. Martha Stewart has her own business. Patricia Miller and Barbara Bradley is Vera Bradley. Liz Claiborne, who was the most profitable company of the 80s, started her business in the 80s. Now, board members, top owners, or top executives in the 80s included Hillary Clinton. She sat on the board of Walmart. Gloria Vanderbilt, Diane von Furstenberg, and Shirley Bigley, who's with Citibank in Maryland. Political visibility. Elizabeth II, Margaret Thatcher. Interesting, right? That none of those are in the United States. President Aquino, Nancy Reagan, Sandra Day O'Connor, and Geraldine Ferrero. She was our first female vice president candidate. Now let's look at our top earners and top executives or officers. This is the record number of women who became top CEOs worldwide. We've got Marge Shout, who was the owner of the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. Of course, Oprah Winfrey. Carly Fione, who was at Hewlett-Packard but didn't last there long. Andrea Jung, who's with Avon. And Meg Whitman, of course, was president and CEO of eBay. Now let's look at what happened in the 90s. 1992 was the year of the woman, where record numbers of women were elected to high offices in the United States. Of course, Barbara Bush was a first lady. Hillary Clinton was a first lady. We had Janet Reno, Marilyn Albright, U.S. Army General Claudia Kennedy, Ann Richards, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, Mae Jemison, Anita Hill, and Mother Teresa. So let's see what happened in the 1990s. We had more women open companies: Mrs. Fields, Estee Lauder, Donna Karan, Pinnacle Technical Resources, which is a Dallas-based company, and Harpo Productions, which is, of course, Oprah's company. So here we go into the 21st century. Let's look at what's happening now. Our top earners and top executives or officers. Brenda Barnes is the CEO of Sara Lee. Indra Noyo is the CEO of PepsiCo and a top earner. Ursula Barnes is with Xerox. Susan Ivey is with Reynolds America. We've got another woman who's Carol Maritza, who is the CEO for TJ Maxx and another top earner. Ellen Coleman, the DuPont CEO, and Lynn Alshans, who's CEO of Sunoco, both top earners as well. So we're making strides. Now let's look at our political visibility. Laura Bush, Sandra Simoto, Hillary Clinton, she seems to be on a lot of these lists, Condoleezza Rice, Michelle Obama, and Sarah Palin, of course. So here's some more women-owned companies in 2000. Jenny Craig, Build-A-Bear, did you know that was owned by a woman? Carol's Daughter, Lexington Consulting, Aduna Management, and Pursuit of Excellence, which is another Dallas-based company. So now let's talk about why we're stuck. So we saw a little bit of headway through the 80s and the 90s and the 21st century, but we're not where we need to be. So why is that? I'm going to share with you some reasons, I think. Have you ever noticed that the Girl Scout promise says, "On my honor, I will try to serve God, my country, to help people at all times, and to live by this Girl Scout law"? The Boy Scout oath says, "On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law," etc. So we are teaching women at a very early age, or young girls at a very early age, that it's okay to fail. I will try. Well, we should be doing more than trying. And then again, the Boy Scout oath says, "I will do my best." Now, I know there's a lot of women out there who are trying to get the honor change to say, "I will do my best." Take it from try. So I thought that was very, very interesting. And I wanted to share that with you, that at a very young age, girls are taught that it's okay to fail. And it is okay to fail, but we want them to do their best, not just to try. Susie Orman has a great quote, which I really like, and you can use this too. The problem is a woman is socialized to accept that which is given. So if someone tells you that you can't, you automatically believe it. If someone tells you that you're not worth it, again, you believe it. You get angry, but you can't say anything. Women don't say what they think, and they don't do what they feel. So think about that, because we can change this very easily. Women don't say what they think, and they don't do what they feel. So we want to start thinking about making a change there. Okay, let's talk about men. 9% of men say they understand women. Really, 9%, which tells us that 91% of men don't understand women. 68% of women say they understand men. 58% of men believe that women have as equal a chance of getting ahead as men do. And only 24% of women share that outlook. So this is a confidence issue, right? If we don't think we can, we can't. So we want to start believing that we can, so we will. 24% of women think that. 83% of men believe both men and women are experiencing the same level of job satisfaction. I've got some numbers that's going to share with you soon that tells you that's different. 93% of women believe that men have job satisfaction, but only 62% of women feel job satisfaction. That's a problem. 79% of men feel appreciated at the workplace, while only 48% of women feel appreciated. 82% of women want to be recognized for their efforts in achieving results. Now, that doesn't mean that we all don't want to be recognized for it, but 82% think that's very important in the job. Other women might just want to go into work, get their job done, and go home and don't feel like they need to be recognized. So I don't want you to take that as bad, but 82% of us want to be recognized for our efforts, and we want to be rewarded when we achieve those results. 89% of men want to be recognized for their results. So it's not a big difference, but there's still a difference. We should all want to be recognized for that, right? 79% of men feel they have to be careful and indirect when providing women critical and timely feedback. So that's important, right? 80% of men think they have to treat us with kid gloves. Well, we want to be treated equal, right? Not with kid gloves. 82% of women said they want to receive direct feedback from men. So talk to us, tell us what's wrong, give us some constructive criticism so that we can improve it. 72% of men say women ask too many questions. That's almost 3/4 of all men think we ask too many questions. Why do we ask them? It's so that we can understand what we're getting, right? 80% of women say they prefer to ask questions, even when they know the answer. So we just want more information. So I think that's interesting because men think we ask too many questions. Women want to ask more questions than we already do. 98% of men and women feel communication is important, though only 52% of women feel like we're fully heard by men. That's 50%, ladies. 82% of men feel they're communicating well enough to women and believe they are being understood. 95% of men and women consider trust to be the foundation of a working relationship. Well, of course, we have to trust each other or we're not going to be able to work together. 92% of women say men earn their trust through caring and concern, right? Because we're emotional. That's just the way women are made. So we're emotional and we want that caring and concern before we can really feel like we're trusting men. 89% of men say women earn their trust by showing credibility and competence. So think about that. We have to show credibility and competence before 89% of men will trust us. So we're emotional. We want to care and we want to concern, but we need to show more credibility and competence. We need to show that we know what we're doing. Now let's talk about why women really leave the workplace. When I talk to some women about why they leave the workplace, a lot of women think that other women leave because of home life. And you're going to find out that that's not necessarily the case. Women leave, number one, because they're not valued in the workplace. 68% of women leave because they don't feel like they're valued in the workplace. And I deal with a lot of women that feel this way too. 65% leave because they don't feel like they're being included in teams or decisions, right? So we're being excluded in certain teams and certain major decisions. So 65% of us feel that way. 64% feel like it's a male-dominated environment and they want to go someplace else where it's not so male-dominated. Well, that's the case, obviously, in commercial real estate, but that's changing. We're seeing a lot more women get into commercial real estate and going on different industries where it's a commission-based only so that they then have the control of their own destiny, right? Lack of opportunity for advancement. 55% of women leave the workplace because they don't feel like there's any place else to go in their current job. So that's a problem with the corporations themselves because they need to be opening up and giving women more opportunities on how to get to the next level. Only 30% of women leave the workplace because of work versus personal life issues. And a lot of people think that's flipped. A lot of people think that 68% of women leave because of that, when only 30% of women are leaving the workplace because of work versus personal life issues. So let's take that and bring it out into the marketplace and let people know that we can do that. We can have a work and a life and we can balance it. That's not why we're leaving. Now let's talk about some more reasons why we as women are stuck. And I see this a lot in the workplace. Number one is we talk too much about our personal issues. We don't want to be the ones sitting at the table gossiping about what we did over the weekend that isn't relevant to work. And men and executives look at us, and both female executives do the same thing, about the fact that we talk too much about personal issues. Check it at the door. Check those personal issues at the door. Don't be afraid to ask somebody if they had a good weekend or how their evening was the night before, if you knew they were going to do something, but just make the statement and move on, and let's get back to focusing on work. I talk to a lot of my clients about this, and I know a lot of you are on the same page too. We show too much cleavage. That's not the appropriate place for showing cleavage in the workplace, right? So make sure that you're dressed. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately, but I always like to say, make sure that you're dressed. Don't play mommy. We're the women that have the everything in our drawers, from aspirin to Band-Aids to a snack if somebody gets hungry, and we end up being looked at as the person who can take care of everybody at that level, not necessarily the person who can make the decisions for a company. So don't be that person that plays mommy all day long and thinks they have to take care of everybody at the office. The other one is being the office supply cabinet, right? You need a pen, you have an extra pen. You need paper clips, you have paper clips. Make men go to the office supply cabinet just like women go to the office supply cabinet, and don't start hoarding everything so that you think you have to be everything to everybody. Start taking care of yourselves and let everybody else take care of themselves. This is a big one, lady gossiping. It's a big one. And a lot of us who are in executive positions have gotten over this, but we have to make sure that we're telling the women who are at a different level that are gossiping that it's not appropriate. We don't want to know. And when they pull you into those situations, tell them, you know what, I don't really have time for this. Let's just not gossip. You have to be the one that stops it. Gossiping is a big issue, and they always blame it on the women. We don't blame it on the men because men don't really have time for it and don't want to do it. Again, a lot of the executive women that I work with don't truly gossip a lot, but sometimes we get sucked into it. So we want to be careful of that. Phrasing ideas as questions and adding disclaimers. This is a big issue that I see with women, and it's just a matter of retraining your brain, right? So you always say, you know, I don't know that this is right, or I think I might be wrong. Don't go in and decredit yourself before you've even said anything. You need to take those negative words out of your sentences. It's like walking into somebody's office and saying, I'm sorry to interrupt. Well, no, you're not sorry. Take the I'm sorry out of it, or you wouldn't be there because you need something. So be really careful about those negative words that you utilize when you're phrasing ideas and adding disclaimers. Now, here's a big issue, right? Leaders must be assertive, self-confident, and entrepreneurial. Those are usually seen as masculine traits. Women who display these behaviors are seen as abrasive instead of assertive, arrogant instead of self-confident, and self-promoting instead of entrepreneurial. Well, we want to get over that, right? We want to not have people look at us as, well, she can't do that because she's a woman. She can't act that way. Well, we should be able to act the same way that men act and not be considered a B person. And we all know what the B word is. So you want to be assertive. Don't shy away from assertiveness, self-confidence, and the entrepreneurial attitude because you're afraid of what people are going to think. I've said this to a lot of my clients, and I've said this to a lot of my members. What people think about you is none of your business. And it's their issue and not your issue. So I want you to remember that. We're not good at negotiating, and we're not good at networking. And I've seen that. I've seen that face to face. And now we're going to have a negotiating program at the end of November when we do a Women's Power Hour on Wednesday. So you don't want to miss that, and I'll send you information on that. But we are not good at negotiating for ourselves. And networking, we end up a lot of times just going and talking to the people we know. Well, this is about self-confidence, right? This is about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and going and meeting new people and meeting with the people who are going to help you get to where you want to be in the next level of your career. We talked about this earlier, but when you say I'm sorry, we apologize too much. Don't walk into a meeting saying I'm sorry to interrupt. Don't walk into start a meeting with, I'm sorry I'm late. Well, everybody knows you're late. Don't apologize for it. Just move forward. We need to take the words I'm sorry out of our vocabulary. If you think about it and you listen to your male and your female counterparts, the women always apologize. The men don't apologize. I want you to just think about that and start listening to that. Okay, let's move forward. Let's talk about how we can change things, because that's really the important thing. I wanted to give you a little bit of history, but I do want to talk about how we can change things and what we should be doing to moving forward and making things different. We're going to talk about 4 women who have opened different companies and done different things, and what they're doing in this whole movement of the evolution of the executive women and how we can mirror that. So I'm going to take each one of them and we're going to just talk a little bit about what they're doing in their companies and what they're doing going forward to change this stamina or this image that we have. So Lisa Price, I mentioned her earlier. She is the founder and president of Carol's Daughter. She says, sit at the head of the table, right? That's a Sheryl Sandberg. If you've never read her book, Lean In, it's worth the read. It doesn't apply to everybody, but it's got some great information in it, so I want you to read it. Sit at the head of the table. If you're in a meeting and the table and there's a seat at the table, but there's also seats away from the table, we want to go and sit in the seat that's away from the table. And I don't know why, but go to the head of the table. Sit at the table. Don't sit at the bench that's behind the table. Start making yourself visible. On gender leadership styles, men get over it a lot quicker than women. I've always said that don't let gender be an issue and it won't be an issue. So I concur with what Lisa is saying is we just don't get over it as quick as men do, and we need to. So let's not make it an issue and it won't be an issue. You all know this is a big pet peeve of mine. Crying is never good. It enforces a stereotype that women are weak and not as tough as men. And that's the way we're viewed. And you've got to just take your emotions out of it. Now go home and scream and cry and throw things when you're at home or behind closed doors, but never let other people see you, because it is a sign of weakness. Now let's talk about Marjorie Kaplan. She is with Animal Planet. She's the group president there. And I like what she says too. And these are just good tips for you to think about. And again, we'll have this recorded so you can go back and review it and take notes if you're not taking notes. Women are other focused. And what she means by that is that we are multitaskers, right? We don't focus on just one thing. Now, we thought multitasking was this great thing that we could do, but we found out now that multitasking isn't as strong as we all think it is. We lose focus when we're doing 3 or 4 different things at once instead of focusing on one thing. We're always other focused. Well, why wouldn't we be, right? We have to be mothers, we have to be wives, we have to be sisters, we have to be bosses. There's so much that we have to be girlfriends. So let's focus on whatever the challenge is at hand. You have to be very direct with men. Well, why is that? Because we saw earlier that men, think that we ask too many questions and they don't trust us unless we're competent and direct. So we have to be very direct with men. So make sure when you're talking to a male colleague or somebody that reports to you or you report up to, that you're bringing solutions and not problems. And we've talked about that in one of our last lessons. Now, I want you to think about this. Niceness and kindness are not the opposite of ambition and drive. It is powerful to choose to be nice. We don't want to walk in and just think women walk in the door and automatically we're a B because we have to feel like we have to be mean. Be nice to people. It makes such a huge difference. Niceness and kindness are not the opposite of ambition and drive. So I challenge you today to choose to be nice. Next, let's talk about Doreen. She is president of Quirky, and don't you love that name? It's a product development company. Now, I believe this. Women by their nature have better instincts and better intuition, right? We have this gut intuition that I always tell people to go with because it's typically right. So we want to make sure that if you meet somebody and you think, this person he's not really quite what I think he should be doing, you're probably right. If you're interviewing somebody and you don't have a good gut feeling about that, don't hire them because you're probably right. We talked about this earlier. Don't let gender be an issue. Now, a lot of women are going to tell you this, and I think it's good advice. Don't let emotions get in your way. If you take emotions out of it, you begin to look at everything objectively. Now, sometimes we can't help it because it's that time of month or we're going through menopause or whatever the issue is. But I want everybody to think about taking a deep breath and being strong in yourself. Take the emotions out of it. Again, if you're having a bad day, shut the door and cry and scream and hit the pillow. But don't let your emotions get in the way of making very important decisions and being in meetings with other professionals. Now, Amy Schulman is the vice president and general counsel for Pfizer. We've all heard of Pfizer, right? She says spend political capital. And I love that. And what she means by that is take a look at the people that are in your office that can help you get to where you need to be. If you're working for a corporation or if you're working for a small company, get to know the CEO, get to know the regional president, get to know the people that you work with, and don't be afraid to sit down and ask them, how am I doing? What should I be doing differently? We all need that checkup and then be able to take that constructive criticism, but use it. It's such powerful information. Use that political capital. Women can and should do a better job of helping one another. Well, you've heard me say that over and over again. Women can be so ugly to other women, and I, to this day, don't understand why. We're threatened or we're intimidated, but get over it, right? Get over it. Let's help each other. If we don't start helping each other, we're never going to get to the next level. Whoever owns the language wins the conversation. Think about that. Whoever owns the language wins the conversation. We want to really think about this. Don't sit there and let somebody overtalk you. If you've got something to say, speak up. If you're just sitting there, people aren't going to notice you. I want you to be noticed. I want you to know what you're talking about, so that's where that competency comes in and that self-confidence comes in. Whoever owns the language wins the conversation. Just some things that I just thought were interesting that I want to throw out. Marissa Mayer, who's obviously the president and CEO of Yahoo. I've always believed you can never have everything you want, but with work and dedication, you can have the things that really matter to you. Now, I've always said you can have it all, but you might just not have it all at the same time. So think about what really matters to you, right? What's important to you? And then go out and seek those things that are important to you. Let's talk about female leaders versus male leaders. Female leaders define their leadership in the strength and power of their networks. Now, earlier we talked about how women weren't very good at networking. But here's what's interesting is women are afraid to network with other women. They're afraid to ask their friends if they need a favor, if they want some business. That's what we're here for. We all want to help each other, so don't be afraid to go to that network and ask for business and share business, right? It's always a quid pro quo. Women leaders are aware of the specific situation and the needs of individuals and groups and how those issues can affect the organization. I believe that's because women have children, right? Now, when you have children, you're always putting them together in teams or you're splitting them apart. But we know the issues that can affect the organization. Utilize that as you're growing in your career. Women decentralize planning and shared decision making. And that's really important. Don't ask somebody if they think your decision is the right one, but don't be afraid to ask them what their opinion is on it or how you think it's going to affect some things. Be really careful that you're not asking for permission, because people will say, you know what, Liz can't make a decision because she's always asking people for their input. And so I'm not sure she's the right person to lead this company. So think about what you're saying as you're saying it. Women directly emphasize, encourage, and praise others, right? That's big with women. We seek to resolve emotional conflicts through communication when we say, let's talk about it. Men want to ignore it. And that's okay if you're emotional. That's the emotional part. That's okay because it's the emotional intelligence. It's the caring and the feeling that we have to have, but just without the tears, right? You want to care about other people. You want to know what drives them and what doesn't drive them. Now let's talk about male leaders. Male leaders define their leadership through their accomplishments and the results of others. So if they're helping somebody else be successful, then they are going to say that they're successful too. Male leaders are also more attentive at the macro level, financial and operational needs of the organization, and not as concerned at the individual level. It's just sharing the differences and not good or bad. Male leaders think centralized planning with performance measures and hierarchical decision making. They want to be up. They want to move everything up to the upper level of the decision makers, and it's very important to them that they're leading per performance. So if you're meeting your numbers, then they think they're doing a great job. If they're not meeting your numbers, then they don't think you're doing a great job. Male leaders promote independent resolution of problems and control emotional vulnerability, right? Less feeling, more doing. They don't want to get their feelings involved. They're just not wired that way. But the emotional intelligence that we have to have in today's workplace is very important. And so men are going to have to really start thinking about how to pull in that emotional intelligence into the workplace. Now, I thought this was interesting. Women helping women. More than 50% of all men and women agree that women are harder on other women in the workplace than men. I want you to read that again. More than 50% of all men and women agree that women are harder on other women in the workplace than men. Why is that? I've worked with a lot of women. I've done a lot of speeches, and that's always the result. We just don't like to help each other. So let's be done with that. Starting today, let's move forward. Let's stick together and help each other. Pay it forward. I'm a big believer in paying it forward because sisterhood is powerful, right? I mean, it's just very powerful. So let's wrap it up because we've got, it's about 40 minutes after the hour. And so I want to make sure that we have some time for people to go out and vote if they want to vote. And again, if you're calling from the central region, and then if you're calling from the East Coast or the West Coast, then you've got plenty of time. I'm going to share with you just a handful of takeaways before we wrap it up. Be the leader you are. It's really that simple. Be the leader you are. Trust your gut. Women have a gut intuition that's very, very strong. So if it feels like it's not right, it's probably not right. So I want you to trust your gut. Women can and should help other women. Let's make that pact today that we're going to really start helping other women going forward. If we help other women are going to help us, right? So let's make that a very powerful statement. You've seen the Tom Hanks movie, There's No Crying in Baseball. Well, I'm a big believer that there's no crying in the boardroom. We have to keep our emotions out of it when we're having a difficult day. So remember that. It is a sign of weakness. And men actually expect us to cry. So let's surprise them. Confidence is your friend. If you missed our confidence builders, you can go back into your membership directory and listen to it online. Confidence is your friend. It is huge as we start to feel better about ourselves and take care of ourselves. Other people are going to see us as better individuals and know that we can take care of them. So confidence is your friend. If you're having issues with confidence, call me. I can help you. I can walk you off the ledge. Network, right? I mean, we've got to be able to network. Don't be afraid to ask your friends for business. Don't be afraid to give your friends business. That's how this network grows bigger. And if you're walking into a room and nobody's walking up to you, don't walk up to the people that you're most comfortable with. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Walk up to that person who nobody is talking to, and they probably have a piece of business that's going to make a great day for you. Being the CEO means never having to say you're sorry. Don't go in and apologize for everything. When you're the CEO, you have to make the tough decisions. And that's okay, right? Say what you think and do what you feel. Susie Orman said that earlier, right? We don't say what we think and we don't do what we feel. Let's take ownership of it. Let's say what we think and do what we feel. It's powerful, women. Ask for what you want. My mother always says the worst that can happen is they say yes, right? You don't ask, they can't say yes. So surprise yourself. Let's talk about how to negotiate for that next raise. Let's talk about how to negotiate that contract with your client. And then let's help you ask what you want. Ask for what you want. Pay it forward. This is so simple. Pay it forward. Help other women, help other men. Don't just stop at helping other women, because most of us who work with a lot of men enjoy that. So pay it forward, and whatever we do, pay it forward. I think that's so important. And don't forget that you can. Take those negative thoughts out of your mind and the negative things that you say out of your verbiage. And yes, you can do anything we put our mind to. All of us can do anything we put our mind to. So let's do that. I thought this was an interesting, just final quote. And this is from Sheryl Sandberg. We hold ourselves back in ways both big and small, by lacking self-confidence, by not raising our hands, and by pulling back when we should be leaning in. So let's read that again, because I blubbered it on the first try. We hold ourselves back in ways both big and small. We lack self-confidence, and we're not raising our hands, and we pull back when we should be leaning in. So go out today, ladies. Make it a great day. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or give me a phone call, and I'm more than happy to help you. Thank you for joining us today, and make it a great day.
Thanks, Liz.